Regardless in whatever form she's in, she's always a tough player, and I don't think anyone takes her for granted.
Coco Gauff just went head-to-head with Aryna Sabalenka on IG Live, and it got tense fast. What started as playful banter spiraled into a raw, unfiltered clash that no one saw coming. But what really sparked it all might surprise you. And I've got the full story behind the moment that's breaking the internet. The echo before the outburst. Every rivalry in sport begins long before the public notices. For Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka, it started quietly. Not with words, but with the unspoken tension between two athletes who know they'll cross paths again and again.
I don't agree with that. I'm here sitting here, and last time I played, no, like to ego or anything, but I played her and I won in straight sets. So, I don't think that's a fair thing to say.
In February 2025, at the Qatar Open semifinal, Gauff edged Sabalenka in a grueling three-set battle, 4-6, 7-6, 6-3. On paper, it was just another showdown between stars. But the handshake at the net told another story, polite, tense, and charged with something unsaid. Later, Sabalenka's comment about Gauff's emotional playing style became the spark. It wasn't harsh, but it fed speculation. Within hours, social media turned one remark into a storyline: the calm prodigy versus the passionate powerhouse. Gauff didn't respond directly, but her post reading, "Emotion is strategy," felt like a quiet rebuttal. From then on, every glance, every match, every quote was dissected. Neither player meant to fuel the rivalry, but in today's hyper-connected world, perception moves faster than fact. What began as quiet professional tension was amplified into a global conversation. One handshake, one remark, spiraling into a storm that would soon spill beyond the court and onto screens everywhere. The live that changed the game. When Coco Gauff went live on Instagram with Aryna Sabalenka, no one saw it coming. There was no teaser, no coordinated post, just a sudden notification that pulled millions into the same moment. It wasn't heated or sensational, but what unfolded in those 20 minutes quietly reshaped how fans viewed both women.
I'm sure my team and everyone's gonna tell me, like, you did well at Roland Garros, don't be so upset and things like that, but I don't really like losing, and I don't know, I just feel a little bit disappointed in how I showed up today. I feel like I could have been.
There were no arguments or viral quotes, just two athletes talking, not as rivals, but as people stripped of the usual polish of press rooms and sponsorships. And that was what made it powerful. The months of speculation, the dissected gestures, the edited sound bites, all of it melted away as they spoke openly about pressure, emotion, and the fine line between confidence and vulnerability. What fans expected to be a confrontation turned into connection. The so-called calm prodigy and passionate powerhouse revealed themselves to be mirrors, different in style, but driven by the same hunger. The live stream became more than a viral moment. It became a cultural reset. When it ended, the replay spread across platforms. Analysts called it the moment that changed modern tennis. It didn't end their rivalry. It elevated it. For once, authenticity became the headline, and respect became the story. When narrative outruns reality. The morning after the live, the internet had already rewritten the story. What began as a calm, candid exchange between Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka was suddenly being framed as something monumental, a cultural reset, a moment of healing, the conversation that saved tennis. Within hours, meaning was being assigned faster than truth could catch up.
Tennis fans or things like that, it gets blown up on social media, but I think for us players, it's just like another week on tour. But these things happen, I would say, more frequently than.
Clips were edited with cinematic captions. Headlines twisted fragments of dialogue into competing narratives. Some said it was proof their rivalry had ended. Others claimed it was orchestrated PR. The reality was simpler. Two athletes had briefly stepped outside the spotlight to be human, to acknowledge the weight of competition and the toll of constant scrutiny. For a moment, respect replaced noise. Players, pundits, and fans praised their grace. Brands capitalized, turning authenticity into marketing. But soon, doubt crept in. People began asking when it was planned, who benefited, what message it was meant to send. Gauff addressed it gently. Sabalenka stayed silent. Both knew the cycle. Once the public takes hold of your story, you stop owning it. Still, the impact remained. That 20-minute live blurred the boundary between performance and personhood. It reminded the world that even in rivalry, honesty can be revolutionary. Between applause and aftermath. In the days after the live, the response was staggering. Clips, edits, and reactions flooded every platform, transforming a quiet 20-minute exchange into a cultural event. For Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka, it was surreal, watching a simple, unscripted conversation evolve into something much larger than either of them intended. What they said wasn't revolutionary. What mattered was that they said it without the usual walls of performance.
And got more windy, and also I think I was over emotional, and I think today I didn't really handle myself quite well.
Soon, headlines called it a turning point for tennis. Analysts spoke of a new era of emotional honesty in sport. Think pieces dissected every sentence, every pause, every look. But for Gauff and Sabalenka, it wasn't about symbolism, it was about truth. They had both learned that once the world witnesses authenticity, it refuses to unsee it. Both players returned to training quietly, letting the noise fade on its own. Silence, however, invites interpretation. Fans debated endlessly, was the live closure, strategy, or something in between? The speculation no longer stung. They had found peace in letting the public imagine what it wanted. When they met again in Miami weeks later, something had changed. The rivalry still burned, but it was cleaner, defined by respect, not tension. The handshake was genuine, the smiles real. Cameras caught it instantly, of course, spinning another story. But beneath the headlines, the truth remained steady. Competition doesn't have to be conflict. The live hadn't ended their rivalry. It had refined it. Rewriting rivalry. The rivalry between Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka no longer follows the script sports media expects. It isn't fueled by resentment or ego, it's built on evolution. What once looked like a clash of opposites has become a study in how competition can mature without losing its intensity.
You always feel like you want to die, you don't want to exist anymore, and this is the end of your life. But then you sit there a little bit and you think about what you could have done differently on the match, and you.
Before the live, Gauff was seen as the composed tactician, Sabalenka, the fierce aggressor. But as their story unfolded, fans began to notice what united them, not what divided them. Both were relentless workers, disciplined, and deeply aware of what it takes to stay at the top. Their rivalry began to represent something rare: connection through competition. At tournaments, cameras still hunted for tension, but found poise instead. The two neither performed friendship nor avoided each other. They simply coexisted, grounded, respectful, and real. That subtle balance became the quiet strength of their dynamic. Fans adapted too. The discourse shifted from who's better to what they bring. Gauff's control, Sabalenka's power, both became lessons in resilience. Off-court, they spoke not of rivalry, but of perspective, showing that growth and grit can share the same space. The media kept chasing drama, but the real story had already changed. Their rivalry was still alive, sharper, wiser, more meaningful. In a world addicted to spectacle, their restraint became the boldest statement of all. Lessons from the stream. Months after the live, it stopped being just a viral moment. It became a reference point. Coaches, journalists, and even athletes from entirely different sports began citing it as an example of how authenticity can shift the way the world views competition. What Gauff and Sabalenka did wasn't revolutionary in action. It was revolutionary in honesty.
The apology did come a little bit later. I thought it was gonna come pretty quick. But after that, I mean, I didn't want to fuel more hate. I'm not the person that will fuel like hate in the world, and I think people were taking it too far. It wasn't even.
The stream proved that openness doesn't dilute rivalry, it deepens it. Fans didn't stop choosing sides, but they started seeing the people behind the statistics. Two athletes driven by the same hunger, carrying the same weight. For Gauff, it became proof that maturity isn't quiet compliance. For Sabalenka, it showed that passion isn't fragility. Both learned that vulnerability, when genuine, can resonate more deeply than any title. Inside the tennis community, the ripple was unmistakable. Coaches began emphasizing empathy alongside aggression. Commentators spoke about rivalries as evolving relationships rather than conflicts. A shift had begun, one that neither player planned, yet both embodied. Critics called it calculated, but time proved otherwise. Their consistency, competing fiercely, losing gracefully, speaking truthfully, sustained the sincerity of that moment. Years later, few may recall their exact words, but everyone remembers the feeling. Calm, human, unguarded. That's the real legacy. The live wasn't about performance, it was about permission, to be fierce and open, ambitious and vulnerable. It reminded the world that strength and sincerity don't cancel each other out. Together, they define what greatness truly looks like. The shift in silence. As the months passed, the buzz surrounding the live began to settle into memory. The constant replays, reaction videos, and overanalyzed headlines slowly disappeared, replaced by something rarer: quiet. And in that quiet, Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka finally had room to just play again.
In the statement, and I messaged to her, like, I didn't really want to offend her. I was just completely like upset with myself and emotions.
The tour moved on, as it always does. Their matches came and went, sometimes against each other, sometimes apart. But whenever they did meet, the atmosphere was different, lighter, more grounded. The sharp tension that once fueled endless speculation had faded, leaving behind only what mattered: the competition itself. The noise was gone, and the game was once again the story. For Gauff, the calm became a kind of strength. She learned that silence could be strategic, not as retreat, but as control. She no longer needed to clarify or counter every narrative. Sabalenka found her rhythm in openness, expressive but centered, present without overexposure. Each was learning to exist outside the constant lens of public interpretation. The press took note. Headlines began to shift from conflict to composure. Some fans missed the drama, but neither athlete seemed concerned. Peace doesn't trend, but it endures. Quietly, they still shaped each other's growth. Gauff's steadiness sharpened Sabalenka's discipline. Sabalenka's fire reminded Gauff to keep her edge. They didn't need to acknowledge it aloud. It was visible in how they played. What began as rivalry had evolved into reflection. Two athletes pushing each other toward something deeper than victory. The live that once defined them no longer needed replaying. It had already done its work, transforming tension into understanding and competition into clarity. Beyond the stream, by the end of the season, both Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka had changed, not just as competitors, but as people. Their evolution wasn't measured in trophies or rankings, but in presence. What began as a fleeting digital moment had quietly reshaped the conversation around what it means to be visible in modern sport.
But yeah, I'm not someone to hold a grudge. And when I was talking to, my circle about it, I was like, if she apologizes, like, not even publicly, it was just more so privately, I will be fine and we'll move on. And she did again when I saw her before practice. And
neither of them spoke much about the live anymore. They didn't need to. Its meaning had settled into something unspoken, a private understanding between two athletes who had faced the same pressures from opposite sides. It was no longer about what they said that day, but about what it allowed them to become. In interviews, when asked about their relationship, both responded with calm sincerity. No rehearsed lines, no tension hidden behind smiles, just mutual respect. They had outgrown the narrative of rivalry and stepped into something richer: resilience. Their story became an example for a new generation, a lesson that authenticity doesn't weaken competitiveness, it refines it. That live, once dissected endlessly, had revealed something deeper. Connection and courage can coexist with ambition. It reminded fans that the truest victories often happen beyond the scoreline. When they met again months later, the crowd's applause carried a different tone. Not excitement for conflict, but appreciation for growth. Their handshake wasn't symbolic anymore. It was simply human. And maybe that's where their story was always leading, not toward spectacle, but towards stillness. The rivalry that once defined them had evolved into reflection. The tension had become balance. And as the noise faded, what remained, their grace, maturity, and quiet strength, became their lasting legacy. Before you go, remember, this confrontation is far from over. What went down on IG Live might just be the beginning of a rivalry that could reshape women's tennis. The tension, the emotions, the hidden meaning behind every word, it's all building fast. If you want to see what happens next, the fallout, the reactions, and how this rivalry unfolds, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next showdown could change everything.